on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And TGIF. It's Friday.
It's a rainy Friday.
A rainy Friday, yeah.
You know, I have to ask a real serious question.
Uh-oh.
Who would plan a block party at Britland Park in the pouring rain? That weather forecast has been out for a week. And granted, the rain may stop later on this afternoon, according to the most recent forecast that I looked at. But they're equating this, it's the last sheet I gave you, they're equating this storm to flash floods. Now, we know that area floods out regularly. As a matter of fact, I think they take the boats out to go through that section of the city. It's like going through the Flint down at Stafford Square. You break the boats out and, you go through. It's the same thing there.
Stafford Square is really bad.
Right, and Britland Park does become kind of swampland after a few heavy rains. So I'm wondering what the city's going to do with that today, but that's at 4 o'clock, and it is a block party to bring Fall River police and community together. So I think it's going to be interesting. Hopefully it dries up a lot and it will make it easy. Now let's get on to the top news story of the day. She broke the ceiling. I wonder if it crashed on her. Everyone criticized her speech. I was getting nauseated through it, but, she had after the Obama speech, and most political pundits say the same thing, the disenfranchised Republicans were feeling like they maybe had a safe harbor in the Democratic Party and possibly in Hillary Clinton until her speech last night. In which case they said, nah, we'll go back to the other side because better the devil you know. And the problem is that when you're getting an upward momentum, it doesn't take a lot to trip and fall. And I think that's what happened yesterday, is that she didn't build up on that momentum that was created not only by Obama, but also by her husband. And that would have been where I would have taken it, and I would have directed my candidate to go. But, I really don't. I don't know about a lot about that, I guess.
Well, the speech was really not a, it was not an awe-inspiring speech.
No.
She was trying to make some points that she felt had to be made, but then again, look, you have to be fair. She was following some of the greatest orators that the political scene has had in the last couple decades. I mean, whether you like President Obama or not, his ability as a speaker, as a public speaker, is unquestioned. He's got, as is Bill Clinton's, and Michelle Obama is an extremely good speaker. That's a talent that, you can get better at it, but you can't become those people. There are people who can speak publicly, and there are people who can't, because it's not just about the words you say, it's the way you say them. It's the changes of tone, pitch, the emotions that you can elicit from the audience and also show yourself. That's kind of a gift, like athletes have gifts. Speakers of that level, really, and so she had a really tough act to follow, which is not making an excuse for her, because that speech was very poorly written. It didn't really have enough content. It really didn't have enough, it didn't have enough punch. And that's what they had to do, and they should have realized that. Her speechwriters should have realized that. They know that she's not a good speaker.
Yeah, the major issue that I have, though, is that this is like a very typical, speech of rhetoric. It's the same stuff we hear, whether it's from a city council candidate to a mayoral candidate to a gubernatorial candidate, now right up to a presidential candidate. It's the same, we can, we will, we should, we are, we're wonderful. And the rose-colored glasses mentality has got to stop. It has got to stop. The facts have to be looked at very seriously. And, granted, that doesn't make it in a lot of political campaigns. It doesn't make a lot of political expedience.
Well, CJ, somewhere between the two, they always say somewhere between two opinions lies the truth.
Correct.
But we do have to face the truth. We talk a lot here about the myths created by governments and stuff, and I'll tell you what troubled me. And they kind of hit the Republicans about the horrible picture they painted of America, and they may have overdone it a little bit, but I think it was far more realistic than the Democratic convention. I mean, they didn't mention ISIS really at all, and then they were chanting at one time, "No more war, no more war." What the hell do you think we're in now? Has anybody checked lately? Do the people in that convention actually look at the news? Do they look at what's going on in Syria? Do they look at what's going on throughout the world? They just slit the throat of a priest in a church. No more war? I mean, come on. Let's look. I understand that a lot of these people, especially these, and I don't like labels. They did call them ultra liberals. I call them ultra delusionaries. You can't pray these things away. This is a reality of the world we're living in today, and the only way we're going to stop this is by eliminating them. Because the fact is, no matter how much you wish everybody could hold hands and make nicey nice, not going to happen. As Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, said so very accurately, man is the only animal that can blush and the only one that needs to. We're the only animal on this planet that kills for sport, that kills for power, that kills for religion, that kills for every reason except survival. And there are going to be people in this world who are going to try to get what you've got, or try to make you do what they want. It's a fact of life. We can minimize it. We can, but we can never eliminate it. The fact is, all you got to do is look around. I mean, these people, their inability to face reality is mind-boggling. I mean, all we got to do is look at the world, look at the history. It wasn't too long ago that in Ireland, people of the same nationality were killing each other over religion. The Protestants versus the Catholics, and the Catholics versus the British Empire, which is fundamentally a Protestant thing. And these people are basically the same color and the same nationality. So you can't say it was race, or it was, but they'll always find a reason. And the fact is, if they were all the same religion, the guy on the west corner will probably want to take over the east corner so he can own both corners. Unfortunately, as Samuel Clemens said, that's human nature. There are always people who will want what you have. And the only way to control it is to do what the Romans said so succinctly. If you want peace, prepare for war. And sometimes you have to go to war. And for people in that convention to be chanting no more war, well, okay, we can stop trying to eliminate ISIS, and then they'll get larger and larger and larger, and ultimately we'll have a terrorist attack every 3 minutes. I mean, this is what disturbs me. Politics is a science of diverting attention from what we really have to do and get votes. It's not about dealing with, this is the problem that the city and the country never moves forward. Because this election's not going to be decided on real issues. They're going to go to different parts of the country and they're going to look at the demographic and they're going to campaign on hot button issues for that particular, it was like years ago. When George Bush won a second term, that the election was decided in Ohio. And what was that election decided on? The war that was raging at the time? No. The economy? No. It was decided on abortion, and it was decided on other issues that were totally divorced from that. It's like when they go down south. They want their vote, they'll say, hey, if you vote for this guy, he's going to take away all your guns. And that's the problem with people. They had one point when Obama said, you don't have to agree with every single issue. And how many times have we said this on this show? We don't have to agree with every single thing that a counselor does or something, but you have to believe they're operating in the best interests of you, because that's who you represent. And that's what really bothered me about this whole, both sides. I mean, obviously they were trying to make points, but the fact is, I think the Republicans kind of made it a little bit too, they went a little overboard on the other side, but I would rather err on the side of ultra reality than try to to have people chanting no more war, while on the news when they walk out, they're going to show you a priest getting his throat cut.
Right.
And even the Pope said we're at war.
Right. And the interesting part about that whole thing is that we see it all the time. And if you looked at this convention, if this convention first started, Monday, Tuesday, there wasn't an American flag in the room. And that became a very big hot-button press issue. So what happened yesterday? I think every single convention participant was holding a fresh, new, cleanly pressed American flag. Okay? Am I for that? Am I against that? Neither. I think it's very patriotic that they had flags. But don't you think they should have had them on Monday? And on Tuesday? And on Wednesday? The one thing I noticed on both conventions? I don't remember seeing them opening with a pledge. I don't remember seeing them making it a point that they pledged allegiance to our flag and our country. Yet you want to represent us? I grew up. We didn't start anything without a pledge. We didn't start class without a pledge. They don't do the pledge in classrooms anymore. So, I've got to move on from there because we can beat this up forever. Let's get on to the new Fall River DCM Director. As our viewers may be aware, we published his resume and his documents from his personnel file. And Joe Good wrote an article on it on the 27th, which was, 2 days ago. And she said that she reached out to Pawtucket, and I had done the same thing last week, and those files should be here. But what was interesting was that when I received the documents, and I made it an issue with Judge Macy, which, by the way, Joe Good did not report on this, because, again, I don't know if they're trying to paint him in the perfect light or what, but they had redacted his university attendance. And then they hand wrote it in. And if you look at the documents, because they are available online, you will see that they redacted it. And I sent an email to Attorney Macy, and I said, this is regarding the request made to the city of Fall River on July 15, 2016 regarding the Ponciano contract and paperwork. I find the documents sufficient on their face, except for the rationale for redacting the resume of the target of this request in regards to his education. Under separate cover, a rationale for this redaction has been requested. Outside of that request, I consider the matter resolved. I've made inquiry, Judge Macy, Joe Macy, replied, I had made inquiry into the redaction on Mr. Ponciano's resume. This was done in the interest of accuracy, as he enrolled in the University of St. Mary's program, but almost immediately dropped out or did not attend. Therefore, both documents are accurate, albeit confusing. If you need further information, let me know. I sent back. Then again, why the redaction? And then the handwritten placement. It is given the appearance of misrepresentation, either by Mr. Ponciano or by the city. All that can be done is explain what happened. I see no appearance of misrepresentation of any kind by anyone. As you know, appearances in the eye of the beholder, J.J. Macy.
Well, I beg to differ. Unfortunately, I think that, he said that it was done, the redaction, and I'm going to read his, okay, to you. I made the inquiry into the, quote, redaction, unquote, on Mr. Ponciano's resume. This was done in the interest of accuracy, as he enrolled in the University of St. Mary's program, but almost immediately dropped out and did not attend. So my question is, as someone who's just looking at this from the outside, that to me doesn't make me feel that it was done for accuracy. To me, number one, who made the correction? Who wrote it in? Was it the city? Was it Mr. Macy? Was it the mayor? Was it the personnel director or the human services director?
Right.
Or was it Mr. Ponciano? And if that was the case, he should have redone his resume. Did this mean that he implied that he was attending this university, and then when he was called on it, said, oh, wait a minute, I only enrolled, but I really never took a course. Memory. It reminds me of, I got a degree by a man who ran for mayor. And then when we checked, he didn't have a degree. And that caused him to lose the election. Right. It was an extremely close election. You know, this man put in a resume. Your resume is supposed to be subject to checking and subject to vetting and also be accurate. And if you put something down that's inaccurate, and you know, it's amazing, Fall River has this so many times. Didn't we actually have an assistant superintendent of schools that didn't even have a college degree?
I think so. I remember that. Yeah.
And he falsified his resume.
Right.
And it's like nobody ever checks anything. So, I mean, this is more than, they're trying to poo-poo this away because they want this guy.
Right. And here's the thing. Mr. Oakford did the same thing. He misrepresented his resume. Okay? And they terminated him. This gentleman here has misrepresented not only his resume, but his background altogether. And those documents are available online. I made sure they were available to all our viewers. Go look at them. Because again, if they crossed out his enrollment at a university to write in St. Mary's, then why was that original enrollment on there? And what is contained in that original enrollment that the people don't have a right to know?
Yeah.
And I can understand his address, which, by the way, I found it because all I had to do was key in his name into the Google search engine. It gave me his name, his address, his home phone number, his real estate license number, his employer. And so, as I said, I've requested from the city of Pawtucket his employment record, his salary basis, because even his job description is questionable. He has no managerial experience in the Department of Public Works out there. He's been a clerk, a technician. Okay? It's like the difference between a custodian or a janitor and a sanitary engineer or garbage collector. Okay? It's the same job. But to give it a pleasant name, you're putting lipstick on a pig. It doesn't work. And, people, and I got into a conversation today with a state individual who was very upset because this is what we're doing. Well, guess what? If you're not doing anything wrong, this doesn't happen. And this mayor, as previous mayors have done, is hiring unqualified people and then fudging the documents.
Well, you know, people have to realize, and a lot of people aren't familiar with it because they didn't have to do things that were could be actually used in litigation and used in court as evidence. And I'm sure as a nurse you did, you know how you make corrections. Now there is a reason for redactions, and I don't have problems with redacting people's personal telephone numbers, their home addresses, and things like that. But when it comes to things that are important parts of their resume, if it was a correction, it should have been done the way a correction has to be done, you know, when it is an actual correction, not an elimination as a redaction is. Because fire department logs are legal documents. They can be used as evidence in court because there are synopses of what happened at different incidents, and there are times and information that could be used. Therefore, those logs have to be kept very accurately, and you can't rip out pages and erase and redact things, because as soon as you get them at the court, the lawyer's going to throw the entire thing out. They're going to go, how can we trust this? We've got erasures and whiteouts, and what you're supposed to do is put a single line through it, so it still can be read. Then you initial that line, so they know who did that, and then you make the correction, just as you do when you do accounting and things like this. There's a right way and a wrong way. If it's a correction, the error that you're correcting, in order for someone to see that if the correction was necessary and why it needed to be corrected, has to be legible. You don't obliterate it so you can't read it. That implies that there was something you were trying to hide. And as I said, redactions are used in secret documents because they don't want the information, they don't want you and I to read it. And also personal information, which I don't have a problem with. I don't want to know where people live, and I don't want to, because I've always been an advocate of, business is business, personal is personal. Even when I ran a union, there were people who wanted to picket them. If we were having a problem with the mayor and a contract, they wanted to go picket his house. And I said, absolutely not. We never did that. We didn't, interfere with their family and their personal life. We had a professional difference. We had an issue, and we did it when they were on the clock or at a political time. But redaction has, there is a necessity for redaction. But in this case, to redact something in an educational section and then write things in, I don't care what the guy at the state says. This causes concern about why it had to be obliterated.
But I think the bigger concern that I have, and I'm very clear on this one, is the fact that the mayor has directed Ponciano not to talk to the press. He has been directed not to talk to the press. And the press cannot meet with him until the mayor has met with Mr. Ponciano so they can explain what the future or what the plan is for this department. Hey, guess what? You hired the guy and didn't tell him what you expected of him?
Until they get their story straight.
That's right. We got to get the story straight, exactly. And we know this. But I guess Taunton may not see a casino.
Boy, I'll tell you, Elizabeth Warren's going to be upset.
Yeah, I know. A federal judge sided with the Taunton group trying to block the Wampanoag Casino. So now they can't move forward because, according to this decision, they don't have land in trust. And they're standing on a decision that we spoke about so long ago when the mayor, then Mayor Will Flanagan, tried to get them to put a casino down here in Fall River. The decision of 1934 was very clear. They must have been under the jurisdiction of the Department of Indian Affairs in 1934 to be recognized as a tribe. After that, you're on your own. So it's expected that they will appeal this decision. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see how this comes out. And again, this is taxpayers filing a lawsuit to protect their property value.
These people are all they're just pains.
And when it's amazing how some people get vilified for filing a taxpayer lawsuit. Other people get glorified for it. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But you have to understand the law behind the lawsuits. Because if the law is valid, whether you like it or not, the lawsuit is valid. You don't say it's frivolous.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that bothers me, and like I said, we covered this on the last show. There's a difference between a political activist and a political hack. Political hacks, everything's wrong. Look, I don't care. This is everybody's right. Just as we had a right to file a recall, just as we had a right to file a taxpayer suit, these people had every right to do it. Whether they won or lost, there was a legitimate legal concern. And if you don't win a case, it doesn't. And sometimes it's not because you didn't win it. As the 10 taxpayer suit, it became an issue of we didn't want to go forward. Just as the initial filing of the recall. We got to a point where they continued to kick it back, and at that time there hadn't been enough traction. We didn't have enough people. I felt we didn't have enough people involved to cover the legal costs, and we waited to see, give him more time to hang himself, and he did.
Right.
And let me make it perfectly clear: the second time that we initiated this, we still barely got enough money to scrape up to pay the lawyer, and you know that, CJ, because we did the books, and he did it for virtually nothing.
To be honest,
and if we would have hired any other law firm, the 10 people who signed that would have been on the hook for big money.
That's right.
So this is, again, another case of alligator mouths attached to canary asses. Everybody, when we won that, everybody's a recaller now.
Right.
But guess what? We ran 3 or 4 fundraisers, and we barely made enough money to pay the guy.
Right.
So this is one of the reasons that a lot of suits don't go forward. People just don't have the money to fight City Hall. City Hall wins most of the time, not because they're right, but because they can tie you up in court forever. And then guess what? Who pays? You're paying on both ends. It's like the city of Fall River. We're paying a law department. If you're complaining, but you're filing suits. Our law department didn't basically do anything. Look at the DCM suit. We're paying a firm $300,000, an outside firm.
Plus, that was what was incurred already.
More to come.
Right.
This is what we complain about. If we've got a law department, let our law department handle all the legal issues. But we have a law department that we're paying big money to, and all they do is make rulings on potholes and go in on temporary injunctions, and anything that takes any real work, they farm out to some other firm, and the taxpayers pay $200,000, $300,000, $400,000,
right.
Just like Dominion.
Right. And the biggest problem that I have here is, in the recall, if it wasn't for the fact that we had people who were volunteering their time to do the legal research, to draft some of the opinions, to draft some of the complaints, we would have to be paying for all of that. Okay? The money that was raised didn't even pay the attorney. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. It didn't even pay the attorney.
No.
Okay?
Didn't even pay him for his research time.
Hey, it didn't even pay him for lunch half the time. So don't say that, oh, we did this. No, you didn't do this. You signed a petition. That didn't make you a recaller. It made you a supporter. And even then, you didn't come up with the cash.
I've said time and time again, it was an effort. A lot of pieces were in it, and getting the signatures was important.
It wasn't the main issue.
But the reality is, without those people sitting around a kitchen table on Birch Street, putting together all the documents,
right,
and putting together all the things that we made the exhibits for in the legal case, we would have lost the legal case, and it would have all been for naught. So let's not try to take too much credit. Let's just share it, okay?
That's it.
And stay angry.
Stay angry, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.